Welcome to the Vibe Within podcast. I'm your host, Gab Cohen. Each week, we will connect through stories and conversations about wellness, yoga, addictions, spirituality, mental health, rituals, and everything in between. The goal is to transform our traumas into strengths to create the change we desire in our lives. My mission is to help others by shining awareness on real-life topics so we can learn new ways to heal physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Whatever you are going through in this moment, you are not alone, so let's connect and heal our vibe within.
But how can I transform resistance? Release that struggle and harm into calm energy.
Hey guys, I'm back after a little hiatus, a little break, a little reset, a little pause of the solo episodes because the last couple months have been very transformative, to say the least. Kind of stressful, kind of dark. It got dark. It did. It got pretty dark this week, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm feeling a little bit better today, and I told myself if I'm feeling better, then I should get on here and record. So I just want to say, first of all, thanks for everyone who messaged me asking me how I'm doing, and then everyone who commented on my Instagram post about, just a little update about what I've been doing, about why I've been kind of to myself, why I haven't been recording so much of the podcast. And, I've been processing a lot. I moved back to Miami. I completely changed my life, and it happened very, very fast. I just got an opportunity to move back to Miami, and, I finally have manifested a safe, secure, stable living environment, which, if you know any of the stories that I've talked about on this podcast, especially about how 2 years ago when I moved out of Miami, I was scammed by a real estate agent, left homeless, had to move up north to Philly. It was a mess. It was my Saturn return, dark night of the soul, tower phase of my life, and living scenarios and roommates and moving has always come with this traumatic kind of lens for me, and it's always been really hard for me to find a safe, secure, and stable environment. It always comes with drama. It always comes with things going wrong. So I've been processing, and I've been just allowing myself to kind of absorb this new living environment that I'm in. And my mom helped me move, and that was kind of a cool experience because I finally got the chance to just kind of hang out with my mom one-on-one without any other distractions. She drove me to Miami with my cat, and it was a nice, stressful, but nice couple of days with her last month. So I've almost been in Miami a month, and I just want to say, when you go through a big transition or a big change, like the way that society pressures us to get back to normal and go back to work, just like society is right now with COVID, and now everything is going back to quote unquote normal, or things are opening and people are going back to being social. This pressure of going back to being hyper productive and shaking it off, and we're all going through so many different changes. Some changes are more intense than others, moving is different than getting a different job, and a different job is different than breaking up with somebody or starting to date, or going through some kind of emotional change, or dealing with health issues. Like, these are all changes, these are all transitions and experiences that we're going through. And I just want to preface this episode as, you know, it's so important to give yourself time to take a step back, because I didn't realize that I was kind of running myself into the ground with my podcast and with I was traveling for a few weeks, and I was like constantly in this fight or flight mode of needing to do more, needing to prove myself to who I don't know, um, needing to produce content, needing to do this, needing to do that, needing to work out. And I was physically running myself into the ground. And I most recently have gone through another phase like that this month. So that's what I'm kind of talking about this episode, so that maybe I can help you not do what I've done and help you find different perspectives or different ways to deal with your stress. But I do want to say that depression is real, and right now, especially, we're in Cancer season. We just went through those eclipses. We had Mercury retrograde. Now Mercury is going direct. I am recording this on Thursday, which is the day of the full moon in Capricorn, and we're in Cancer season. So depression waves are normal. Depression is not a mental kind of state that just stays forever. You could be clinically depressed and have days that you feel happy and normal, and you can be happy and normal and have days when you wake up and you feel like you should be clinically depressed, or you should be on antidepressants. Especially as a woman with our moon cycles and our menstrual cycles. I was just listening to an episode on the Blonde Files with Elisa Vitti, and she's like, she's the woman code, and she's got all these books about hormones and regulating your period, which I'm going to get a little bit more into in this episode, because I finally got my period back. But we don't realize as women that our mood, our metabolism, our energy levels, our just mental capacity changes with each phase. And no matter what gender you are, male, female, non-binary, doesn't matter. Depression is a part of life. And I was listening to an episode of Insights at the Edge, and I will link it in the show notes, but this episode was really, really powerful. I listened to it the other night when I was in the bath, and I was just like, I felt so defeated on Tuesday, and I was just like, I felt like I couldn't function. I felt like I was just fatigued all day long. I was dealing with a huge wave of depression. It was just like a tsunami of depression, and I didn't know. When you get in those moods and those days, you're like, what's the point of doing anything? You have no drive, you have no motivation, you have no inspiration. You're just like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? What's the point of doing anything at all? I don't want to see anyone. I don't want to talk to anyone. I hate everyone. And it's like, that is not a fun place to be, not a fun mentality to live in. But those phases and those mentalities and those moods are normal. It's just a part of life. And I think on those kinds of days when my body, is rebelling against me, or has all these symptoms, what this woman was saying in this podcast episode about depression was, Symptoms are the body's way of communicating to us. Symptoms are the only way that the body can communicate to us that there's a problem, that there's something off, that something that we ate or did or saw or experienced or heard, whatever, had some kind of effect on us. So I had to sit there and be like, okay, what did I do? Why is this happening? Why do I feel like I got hit by a truck? And so this is what happened. Last week, I got my period for the first time in a year. And I've been taking tinctures and herbs and all these things to get my period back. And finally, I got my period back. The week or two before getting my period back, I felt like absolute shit. I gained like 10 pounds. I felt absolutely disgusting in my body. I was just like super anxious, super uncomfortable. Like a couple pairs of my jeans like didn't even fit. Like I'm hoping now that they'll fit because I got my period and things are starting to flow again, but it really really affected me. And I felt like I was losing my mind. I was like, this can't just be in my head. Like I feel like my body is swollen and puffy, and I just felt so crazy. And then lo and behold, I had a really intense therapy session last Tuesday, so like a week and a half ago. And right after the therapy session, I started to bleed. And the therapy session was intense because we were talking about, really personal things. I was, expressing really heavy things to her. And then it just so happened that I got my period right after that. And in the therapy session, I was speaking to my therapist and saying, "Look, I feel fucking crazy right now. I need to get my period. It's been a year and I feel like my body is shutting down and I feel insane. Like emotionally, physically, I just felt so not okay." And then I got my period, and it's almost like me speaking the words out loud signaled to my body that it was time to get my period. Because another thing that we talked about in that therapy session was that I am safe and I'm secure and I'm stable at this moment in time, at this phase in my life, with my living situation, with money. Thank God, I was able to save some money when I was living at home. So even though it was really challenging living at home, the fact that I was able to save money was a benefit. And so in this therapy session, I was saying, I am safe, I'm stable, I'm secure. Like I really just need to tell my body and keep reminding my body that it's safe, it's okay, it doesn't have to be stressed out. And lo and behold, after a 60-minute session of talking about it and releasing it, I got my moon cycle back. And it was an intense moon cycle, I'm not gonna lie. It's crazy experiencing, a period after not having one for over a year. I've gone longer periods of time without a menstrual cycle, and I'll say it is torture, because there is nothing worse than feeling like your body doesn't work. And I started to lose my womanhood. I started to feel like I was, just a waste of space. Like my body isn't working, my digestion has been super fucked up, and it still is fucked up, but the fact that my body is starting to flow again and starting to turn on and starting to work, now I'm really hoping that a lot of my symptoms will start to ease out. But I definitely didn't rest as much as I should have during my period, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about how important rest is, because I basically triggered myself to have a Hashimoto autoimmune flare up, like really, really bad. And I'm the reason for it because I pushed my body to the limit. I pushed it to the edge. And on my period, I felt like I had the energy, and I basically took the fact that my body was working again, right? I was like, oh wow, I got my period. Cool, my body's working again. I took that as a permission slip to go work out as much as I wanted, because for a while I was trying to not work out a lot, not run, not do anything crazy, because everyone was telling me that in order to get your period back, you have to do less, you have to rest more, and blah blah blah. So that's what I was doing. And my fucked up addict brain says, "Oh, you got your period. Okay, cool. That means you can go work out. You can go exhaust yourself. You can go." It makes no sense, but at the time it made sense because working out is what helps me alleviate my anxiety. So I live right by Brickell Key, and I go and run or I walk or whatever. But for about a week, I was going and jogging, and it's pretty hot out, and it's, you got to be careful. And I overdid it with sun exposure. I overdid it with how long I was working out. And the reason why I say this is because I actually just re listened to an episode of the Huberman Lab. Andrew Huberman. He has an episode about, I want to say it's the episode about thyroid, or it could be about the episode about fat loss. But he breaks down like working out and hormones and duration of workouts, and how you're actually not supposed to work out for longer than 60 minutes. Like anything after 60 minutes, like your body is just going into survival mode, fight or flight, like stress. And I was walking and jogging for a couple hours at a time, losing track of time, listening to podcasts, emailing people, calling people, like a psycho. Like that's like addict behavior, losing track of time and doing things that quote unquote are good for the body, but there's a balance, and I was taking it to the extreme. And I would think, oh wow, okay, I feel good, I feel like I just drained all of my anxiety out of my body. But what I was doing was also depleting my energy, my adrenals, my digestion, my hormones, my mood. And it's really hard to find balance sometimes as someone who has an addictive personality, and especially with a history of eating disorders and drug abuse and OCD. It's hard to find a balance with working out, because on one hand, working out makes me feel better, it helps my depression, it helps my anxiety, but on the other hand, it really does negatively affect the body, especially when you're trying to heal your hormones, especially when you're trying to get your moon cycle back, especially when you are dealing with an autoimmune disease like lupus or Hashimoto or hypothyroidism or anything. Lyme, anything. So it's like a double-edged sword, and you really got to be careful, for anyone who's listening who is dealing with depression and autoimmune disease, because the things that all these wellness podcasts and YouTube channels tell you to do to help your depression is movement, is exercise, is movement, is lifting weights, weightlifting, strength training. And yes, that's all really good and healthy, but for people with autoimmune disorders, that is a stress. It's basically an energetic dysfunction of the body. What the body has been so stressed that things start to turn off. Digestion, menstruation, brain function, metabolism. So all these things start to turn off, right? And it's because of the stress levels that the body has been through. But the mind still tries to say, no, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this, got to do that, got to listen to what this person's saying, got to listen to what that person's saying. But I got to say, resting and doing less is the only way that we will heal from our flare-ups and our Hashimoto's and thyroid and autoimmune flare-ups and symptoms, because when the body is getting stressed, that's when all the symptoms come through to communicate with us. So when I was, this week, today, again, I'm feeling a little bit better today, but the beginning of the week all through yesterday, I was feeling swollen, puffy, my face was swollen, my throat was swollen. I looked like disgusting. I just looked horrible. My stomach was bloated. I, felt weak. My joints were swollen. My legs were swollen. I had a migraine. I could not function. I was literally brain dead. And, I really had to sit down for 2 days and not do anything. I had to go outside and get sun and sit by the pool. I had to lay with my legs up the wall. I had to listen to podcasts that were soothing, nothing too high energy, nothing too crazy. I had to listen to things. The two podcasts that I listen to the most of is Insights at the Edge and The Blonde Files, just because Ariel Lore, who was actually on my podcast last year, she talks a lot about this stuff, about digestion, hormones, drug addiction, mental health, food, obsession, eating disorders. So I really needed to honor my body and listen to these things that were also going to ingrain that same message. I can't, say, okay, I'm going to rest for 2 days and feel guilty about it and say, oh my God, I can't believe that I need to rest for 2 days. And I needed to stop watching things and listening to things that were making me feel bad about myself. So when I was on my period, I decided that I was going to binge watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians, because I have not been keeping up with the Kardashians, and I felt like I would get something out of it. I don't really know. So I started with like not 17th. I started with like whatever season it was in 2017. And I gotta tell you that I did not feel good after watching as much of that show as I did, because it basically is ingraining into my brain that my life is minuscule and meaningless compared to these people. The Kardashians are not a normal way to compare ourselves to. A normal day in the life of a Kardashian is going on a photo shoot for Calvin Klein or having like several photo shoots. It's just like going on vacation. Like it's so toxic. It's so toxic, and it got me into this dark place of, wow, I'm alone. I'm sitting in my room all alone. And that's what reality TV is. You're watching people on the show connect with other people, have intimate experiences with other people, like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. You're watching people have intimacy right in front of you, but you're alone and you're watching that, and it's like when you turn it off, you're reminded of how alone you are and how dull you feel and how it's just so toxic. So I'm done watching that show. I'm probably not going to ever watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians ever again because of how shitty it makes me feel. It will make you judge your body, your face, your beauty, your wellness, your money situation, your career, your family, your relationship, your kids. It will make you compare everything, every every facet of your life. And that is not where we're supposed to be energetically. Like, our frequency needs to be elsewhere. And so a show that I do love, that I think that you've probably already watched, but it's Dave on Hulu. That's a good show. And I've been watching more tarot readings, stuff like that. Stuff that isn't going to fry me and make me feel completely shitty about myself. Um, Another thing that triggered my complete fatigue and adrenal malfunction is I tried one of those Celsius drinks, and I did not know that there was so much caffeine in them. I thought that they were just kind of like a drink that helps you burn fat or something. I didn't really put two and two together that it was all caffeine. But I drank one, and so I was on my period last week, and I decided, I'm going to go to CVS and I'm going to buy some Celsius, because I see everyone with Celsius in their hands, and I'm wondering, why is everybody so obsessed with Celsius? And now I can honestly say that I understand why people are obsessed with it, because it's crack in a can. I drank one Celsius, and I felt like I had done 2 huge rails of Coke. I was like on an Adderall binge. That's what it made me feel like. I was like, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm gonna clean. I'm gonna do this. I needed to smoke like 2 CBD joints back to back. And I think that the Celsius is literally what triggered my adrenals, my hormones, my mood to plummet, because I don't drink caffeine like that anymore. I actually weaned myself off of it. I stopped drinking caffeine altogether. I don't drink caffeinated coffee. Sometimes I'll drink a matcha, but I don't drink caffeine anymore, because I had to stop drinking caffeine because of my hormones, of my Hashimoto, of my thyroid issues. Caffeine is really not good for anyone who is dealing with adrenal fatigue or hypothyroidism or autoimmune. So the fact that I went from 0 to 100 to this Celsius crack in a can, I was just like, wow, this is literally insane. People are drinking crack from a can and working out. And it's funny because one of my friends who's sober, he was an alcoholic, so I don't think he ever had a crazy problem with like amphetamines, but I messaged him and I was like, yo dude, holy shit, like, I just gotta say, Celsius is crazy. If anybody works for Celsius and they listen to this episode, they're gonna be like, all right, noted, we're not sponsoring the Vibe Within. But I was like, dude, Celsius, I feel like I'm on crack. And he was like, oh my God, I love them. They're so good. It's like I'm addicted to them. And I'm like, wow, like, they are addicting. And like, everyone is addicted to something, right? Whether it's running, Celsius, Coke, Adderall, Xanax, drinking, whatever. It's crazy. It's really crazy. But I really do think that that's what triggered a lot of my symptoms, because my body was like, okay, wait a second. We're starting to work. We finally got the period going, and now you're gonna go and fuck it up by ingesting 200 plus milligrams of caffeine, and then you're gonna go work out every day. And it's like my body was just like, everybody shut down. She's still fucking crazy. like it's like I just fucked it up. I really fucked it up. And all of my behaviors led me to the darkest, depressed day on Tuesday, and I literally cried for an entire hour this Tuesday, with my therapist, who I love dearly. And I'm really sad because she is going on maternity leave. So I'm gonna have to stop talking to her for a while. But she is the first therapist that I've had who specializes in eating disorders and disordered eating, and she has been a very, very helpful support in my life. And she's also like really into spirituality and Ayurveda. So I can't stress it enough how important it is to find a therapist who specializes in whatever it is that you're needing. And I know that money is sometimes an issue, but if you are struggling with, say, an eating disorder, and you need to find a therapist who it takes sliding scale or does a sliding scale fee, you could actually email most of these eating disorder foundations or recovery centers and ask them if they know of any therapist in the area who does sliding scale. So there's always a way to reach out, and there's also free support groups. There's free support groups for depression, anxiety, eating disorders, Al-Anon, NA, AA. They're all online now, especially the Dharma recovery ones. Most of them are still online. You just go to dharmarecovery.org and it should give you a list of all of the online Zoom meetings. Those have been really helpful. Now that I'm back in Miami, I'm actually trying to find in-person AA or NA meetings, just because I need to start being around people more, and the online support group thing was helpful until it wasn't. And I was going to disordered eating support groups online, and I kind of had to stop because they began to trigger me really, really, really deeply. Eating disorder meetings are just different. It's a different kind of energy, it's a different group of folks. I feel like I fuck with people in the NA and AA meeting groups in those rooms. I vibe with those people more because I just do. I don't know how to explain it. But if you're struggling with an eating disorder and you feel like you need support, but you don't want to go to eating disorder meetings, go to AA or go to NA, because you can still talk about your eating disorder there. They are not judgmental of that, and you can be totally honest, and it's a safe space. So we really have to think about our behaviors. And this was all a lesson for me to see, again, that my behaviors and habits that I think are good for me can actually work against me when they are done excessively. So take that for what it is and insert whatever it is, whatever behaviors and habits that you think are good for you, but when you reach a certain point, they are actually toxic. It could be drinking too much caffeine, it can be drinking too much alcohol, it could be shopping, it could be sex, it could be, toxic relationships, it could be drugs, it could be pills, it could be wine, it could be literally anything. So just take that into consideration. And our bodies are it's our vessel, and sometimes we really think that it's mind over matter, mind over matter. No, like when the body is involved, when the body needs healing, when the body is in a deep stressful situation, no, it's not mind over matter. It's actually body over mind. It's actually, okay, now the body is so fed up that you're not going to be able to leave bed for a few days. Now the body is so fed up that you're not going to be able to open your eyes in daylight for a few days. Now the body is so fed up that you're not going to be able to digest a salad because your body's functioning is just shutting off. So we really have to understand our limits and with that, when we can understand our limits, when we can be more compassionate to ourselves, when we can rest even when our mind is saying, no, you have to go work out, that is inner strength. That is healing. Sometimes not doing the thing that our mind says that we should do because society is pressuring us to do it, or that fitness podcast is pressuring us to do it, that is healing. That's listening to our body. And compassion is something that I've been listening to a lot of podcasts about as well. Kristin Neff is a meditation teacher, and I believe she's a psychologist. And she was on the Blonde Files podcast. She's been on several podcasts recently about her new book, and she's like the self-compassion queen. She's all about self-compassion and talking to ourselves better, and this has been a theme in my life that I've been trying to figure out because I have this bully in my brain, and I talk to my therapist a lot about this bully voice. And a lot of this bully voice is, rooted from childhood and the eating disorder or addiction or toxic relationships that have ingrained these ideas and these beliefs and these perceptions of myself. But self-compassion is really about lowering the volume of that inner bully voice. Sorry if you can hear beeping outside. I'm living in kind of a loud area, but it's about consciously turning down that bully voice within you, and understanding that that bully voice isn't all of you, and sometimes you have to intervene. Because I'll say it firsthand, I talk to myself like shit. I talk to myself really, really poorly. I judge myself really, really intensely. I talk to myself as if I hate myself sometimes. And I wouldn't talk to any of my friends the way that I talk to myself, but for some reason I talk to myself this way. And what Kristin Neff talks about is being fiercely compassionate to yourself and treating yourself as if you are your own friend. Like, how would you talk to your friend? Would you tell your friend, oh, you fat fuck? Or would you tell your friend, I can't believe how fucking stupid and clumsy you are? Because sometimes that's how I speak to myself, and it's not okay. And I know that whoever's listening, there's gonna be moments where you talk to yourself like shit, and it's like, would you say that to anyone else in your life? Would you want anyone in your life to see that darkness come out of you, that judgmental bully? Probably not. So when that voice comes in, it's like you have to really step in front of that voice, step in front of that bully, and be like, listen, you are not serving me. You're actually stressing me out. You're actually diminishing my worth. And I'm still working on this, so I'm probably not the best person to talk about this. So definitely go check out Kristin Neff, her website. She has a ton of guided meditations about self-compassion, and they're all for free. So what else? Talking about symptoms, did that. I'm like checking these things off of my list. We talked about symptoms and how they are the body's communication signal when something's wrong. Cognitive distortions, that's basically so this bully voice that says, nobody wants to be around you, nobody wants to be friends with you, you're disgusting, who wants to hang out with somebody who is so obsessive like you, or whatever. That's a cognitive distortion, because cognitive distortions are taking it to the extreme. coming up with some crazy conclusion. I'm actually going to look it up because I have a picture in my phone of all the cognitive distortions that my therapist sent me. So one of them is all or nothing thinking. You look at things in absolute black or white. Overgeneralization, you view a negative event as a never-ending pattern of life. Mental filter, you dwell on the negative and ignore the positives. Number 4, discounting the positives, you insist that your accomplishments or positive qualities don't count. Jumping to conclusions, that's pretty self-explanatory. Magnification or minimization, you blow things out of proportion, or you think that their importance is inappropriately it's inappropriate. So number 7, emotional reasoning, you reason from how you feel. I feel like an idiot, so I really must be one, or I don't feel like doing this, so I'll put it off. Number 8, should statements, you should, you ought to, blah blah blah. Labeling, you identify with your shortcomings instead of saying I made a mistake. You might tell yourself, I'm a jerk, I'm a fool, I'm a loser, I'm a piece of shit. And then number 10, personalization and blame. You blame yourself for something you weren't entirely responsible for, or you blame other people, and overlook ways that your own attitude and behavior might contribute to a problem. So that's the list of cognitive distortions. And chances are, whenever we're feeling off, we are trapped in a cognitive distortion. You know, when we are feeling good and we're feeling in flow and we're feeling inspired, we're usually not caught in a cognitive distortion. But there's 10 main cognitive distortions, and every one of us is trapped in 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 every day. So just keep that in mind. I don't want to make this episode too long, so I'm just gonna end it here. Main takeaways that I want you to remember: don't watch reality TV if you're depressed. Get outside, journal. Right now I'm reading The Artist's Way. I bought a disposable camera and I'm gonna take pictures with that, and I'm doing a little project. Doing anything that is expressive or creative will help. Other big takeaways, obviously, listen to your body. Don't work out too much, especially if you're dealing with a stress disorder or an autoimmune disease. Stress is going to make you feel worse, and it's going to create symptoms in your body. Depression is real. Even if you're not clinically depressed, you can still have weeks or days where you feel very dark, uninspired, disenchanted, dull, lack of motivation. It's normal. But like I was saying in the beginning of the episode, about depression that I was listening to on the Insights at the Edge podcast, she was talking about doing these micro movements towards feeling better. And if you can do a micro movement, anything, take a walk, go get a cup of coffee at the coffee shop, go by the water, journal, call a friend, go to the gym, whatever it is, take a yoga class, whatever it is to make yourself feel better, even if it's just a micro movement, that micro movement will lead you to bigger sensations of feeling better. And when you can feel a little bit better, you can start to feel a little bit better and better and better. So what I'm gonna do today to make me move towards micro movements of feeling better is I'm going to journal, I'm going to take a walk, I am going to write my friend Christy a letter and my grandmom a letter. And I am going to probably watch a tarot reading. And I did this podcast. And this also makes me feel better because I am connecting with you guys and hopefully helping you guys. So thank you for listening to this episode, and feel free to reach out to me. And I hope that you have an amazing full moon and an amazing weekend, and just do whatever you can in these micro movement ways to lower the damn volume of that bully in your brain.
But how can I transform resistance? Release that struggling heart into calm energy. Well, I will make something out of nothing. Nothing at all. You will hear me sing from the skies above. Ah, ooh. Check it. All I have is love, so I let it out. Dancing to the sun until the stars come out. I don't care how it looks or how it sounds. Alchemize that pain. I got a brand new brain. I got a brand new brain. I got a brand new brain. I got a brand new brain.